Hi y'all, I'm Allison, and today we're going to take a dive into my 2022 reading journal. So we'll just show y'all how it turned out before we get to this year's. Also, the other thing I'm going to do today is show you how it differs from 2021's, which was my very first one. So I've got that right here, and here are the two cover pages side by side. So it changed. Here we go. There. So here's the one that we'll be looking at this time. Pretty simple. It's a cover page. And then we go directly into my recap for 2022. I actually added this info in January this year. So just a little overview of what I finally achieved of the year. I also included my 5-star reads, the flops, which were 2 and below, and my DNFs. And then I had a little fun kind of grabbing some overall statistics for the year and threw in some different handwriting styles and colors of ink to make the page pop a little. And I think I am going to be doing this from each year going forward to be able to compare. I think that'll be cool. And here were my favorite books of the month. I did not limit myself to one only if there were more than one outstanding book during that month. So you'll see there's obviously more than 12 here. I did have a page similar. This one I just did the favorites of the month. This time it's down here. I much prefer this. It's much cleaner looking than this one. I did these all at the same time at the beginning of 2023. So full disclosure. All right, let's just move right along. This is something I did not do in my first one, and I just listed each genre, how many I read from that. New auto-buy authors. I took the 5 standouts that I really loved, the favorite series out of the year, longest, shortest book, favorite new series that I started. These were the ones that I had been either started in 2021 or prior. And then my most read authors, Bernard Cornwell topped the list with 6, and a breakdown by how many per age group, and keeping track of whether I'm reading the new books that I'm buying or not. So we have 2022 purchases, 21, and the vets. And that's a really good mix. I dipped into all of them. Over here, I'm not too sure how much I like this. I thought it might be kind of cool to do monthly highs and lows. I didn't plan ahead. You will see spacing. That is my Achilles heel. There will be plenty of times where my spacing is off, and this is one of them. This should all be shifted down. But I didn't know how much I was going to include on the page, so no big deal. If you want to pause and read it, feel free. And here was my pre-order calendar. So this was a new addition for my reading journal. And, it's pretty self-explanatory. When the publishing date was pushed ahead, I just added an arrow to indicate that and moved it down to wherever it belonged. Which Lockdown Abbey moved to March, and then you can see it moved again from March down to July, which is when it finally came out. If I got the book, I colored in the square. Here's my monthly totals. Just an overview, which it breaks it down: physical, audio, ebook. If I pushed any books to the following month, or if I DNF'd it, how many series I started and finished, how many books I bought, came in subscription boxes, and were unhauled that month. What I did this year was I kind of just made a pile of books I wanted to unhaul and got rid of them all in November. Now, I did do this last year, so here was how it was then, and I obviously added more info. So, and I did like having this. By the way, all these little charts and everything, that's where I pulled the info. I figure if I'm going to chart it, I should have the totals somewhere. And that's what I did at the beginning. Moving right along, this is something that's new, and I absolutely loved filling this out every month. If you saw when this was created originally, this had a purple line here, which was a bad mistake, because with all the color down here, it just clashed. So I hid it behind black, and this one just makes my little heart happy. What we have done here is I've broken down all the genres into 10 categories. And here's my key code at the bottom. And this is for the age group, so adult, YA, middle grade, and children's. So at a glance, I can tell what won each month. And here is the rest of the year. Again, I love this, so I will be continuing this in 2023. Then we move on to my reading goals. And this was exactly the same as 2021, except the color palette is a little different. If you didn't see how my other reading journal worked, the way this is, when I finish a book, it's when it's finished, that's when it comes here. I will write down the title of the book and color in the corresponding number based by the color for the letter it was completed in. Then this number, this becomes the key for everything from this point on. So I will always refer to the chaos of standing still with a number 1 before it, and it will always have the color blue, which just makes it easier down the road. Here are the star ratings to go with that. Did a little better on my layout this time. I really experimented in 2021 with it. And if you want to see all the different variations that page has gone through, be sure and watch that video. But this time I've got a little better, but I'm going to make some changes to it once again. And we have the 2 that go with this list over here. Although my numbering did not line up because I had 2 versions of these books. And I thought I wanted to include both titles. And I ended up regretting that because it throws everything off. And for some reason, I didn't put one here, I went here. So my numbering, it gets way off, and I try to make up for it later because it should correspond with the numbers within these pages. So here I just put extras within. There's 5 instead of 4 on these rows. And I got us to 98 when we should have been, 130. So I got us back on track to 130. And here we are with just 4 per row. So this is how it should have been. And then just more of the same. Since I experimented so much in 2021, I was able to predict how many pages I would need and leave that blank. Last time I had to thread it and tell myself down at the bottom which page it would continue on. So this went, if I went to page 82 in here, then I could find the other covers instead of just being able to turn the page. So, and again, that's half the fun of doing a reading journal. Here's my series tracker. It was an improvement from 2021, but once all the color got added to the page, I wasn't as thrilled as I was when it was just a blank thing. So let me show you. Last year's was like this, and it changed to this. Down here is for like the novellas and things that go between to keep track of which ones they are. This worked really good. So to give you a little bit more detail, we've got our main work is a rectangle. A novella is an oval, badly drawn. And then an anthology would be a triangle. So as you can see, if we read through, like I've got all the novellas from the Stephanie Plum in one binding, but I wanted to be able to read them in publishing order. So all I did was throw an oval in where they should be based on publication. And then down here, it tells me which part of that bind up I should read at that point. Simple as that, and it works really well. I just got to work on getting this page to look a little better. But again, it works. Percy Jackson. Let me tell you, that series, trying to make sense of that, this one, it took me quite a while. Let me show you what I came up with. We've got our original series here, which is Percy, books 1 through 5. And then, as you know, or if you didn't know, it goes to the Kane Chronicles, but it's all interconnected as part of this world. So what I did was, if there's no letter in front, it's Percy. And down here we've got K means K Chronicles. O is for Heroes of Olympus. Then we've got Magnus Chase and the Gods of Asgard with an M, and A for Trials of Apollo. So then what I did, just looking at the rectangles here, this is Percy, there's no letter. Now we know we've got Cain, but then he went to Heroes of Olympus, and then back to Cain, then Heroes of Olympus, back to, so it would be Cain, first book, Heroes of Olympus, first book, second. Hopefully that makes sense. And when we get to the novellas, If there's nothing with it, that means it's Percy Jackson related. So A, B, C, D, those are all Percy. But of course we threw in one for the Kane Chronicles. And then the 1 and 2, these were anthologies. So I've got that all down here telling me which one it corresponds with, but this enabled me to keep it just letters and numbers up top. I hope that makes sense, and it was probably way more information than you wanted. But if you are reading a series that does do this, where there's a whole bunch of interconnected, then this might be a way to do it, if you've been trying to figure that out. And again, these are going back to our colors that we had from the beginning. I can look down here and see November was brown, and I read these books in November. So that's where our colors come back into play. That's how these were all chosen. I didn't put a key for that because I know that the key is right here on my reading goals. So there was that. Oh, and these were notes for, I meant to take this off of here. Here's how it looks without that. Some notes for changes I wanted to make for next year, which actually I'm kind of glad this was in here. I will do that as I'm using it and I realize I don't like the look of something. I'll just jot down a sticky note for myself for changes that I might consider next year. And I think I did implement all of those, which I will be showing y'all hopefully soon. I am still putting together my 2023 reading journal. Okay, this is a brand new thing I didn't have last year or in 21. I did use it, but I didn't add to it all the time, just as I thought of books. And basically I listed anything I thought would be a 5-star prediction when I remembered. And after I read it, I came in and wrote down whatever star rating it was. So it's easy to tell which ones missed the mark and which ones hit it. Most of them hit it out of what I read. And here's another one that I added, which was flops and DNFs. Flops are anything 2 below, and a DNF is obviously something I did not finish. It's rare for me to DNF, but I found some. So all I did here, again, this is going back to our number, from our reading goals back here. 33A. I don't know why I put the A. No clue. So, and I just put the name of the book, the author, and why. I boiled it, just really shrunk down why I DNF'd or didn't like it. And for these, I really shrunk down why I didn't like it. Although, I think this one I didn't have room for more, or there was just a lot of more reasons. So yeah, King Solomon's Mines. I gave up on it. I tried. I really, really tried. Here was my wish list. Again, using our color code for the month. If I got the book, I went ahead and colored it in with whatever color it was at the time that I bought it. And I also wrote down where I heard of the book, where it was recommended, and if I've read it. So colored square means I bought it. Check means I read it. And I really need to keep up with this more because I get a ton of recommendations from y'all, and I have little post-its everywhere, and I don't grab this. So I really want to work on that this year. And then we go to New Friends. This didn't change from last year other than I just got realistic and knew I needed more space because I kept having to thread to new pages. This is just, I put a line at the month end, date, title, and where I got it. And then over here was when I unhauled. This means it was actually physically unhauled. So I didn't get rid of anything until November 12th, and I took them all to half price books. What I did add in here is why I unhauled the book. Some of them were just duplicates, some I lost interest, didn't like the book. And over here was just a tally of how many were unhauled. So I got rid of 51 last year. Not enough, but at least I made progress. This was exactly the same as 2021, keeping track of what came in my subscription box. But since I knew what I would need, I was able to keep the pages all together. And you'll notice some of them have check marks. And that one's a bad example. That was a DNF. But if I read it, then I put the star mark. Wasn't going too good for me with the boxes. And these just have any, if it was a signed copy, reversible dust jacket, how many gifts came from Once Upon a Book Club, that kind of information. And then this was Wordy Traveler. I did cancel this box as of fall. I just found I wasn't being drawn to the books, and those boxes were heavy in tea and coffee, and I don't drink either, so I just realized it was becoming wasteful because I had plenty of unread books already. And then we get into my challenge trackers. Here is the Read Your Bookshelf, all colored in. I managed to do every challenge each month, so I kept up with it throughout the year, and this was why I made a point so I could color in this page. So trackers really work to motivate. The same was for Completely Melanie's TBR Knockout. Here it is all colored in. On this, I tried to, for the most part, match it with the color of the actual book cover itself. And I think towards the end, I grabbed any color just because it was like, okay, this is January 17th. I need to finish because I got behind on keeping up with everything. And then here was Buzzword. Over here, we have the A to Z. These were just books that did not land within any other challenge or wasn't a prompt from one of my games. This was mostly if I was continuing a series and my audiobooks. And again, I used color coding for the month. With a little note to myself to remind me I was using the Sarsa clip pins. That's another thing I will commonly do. Now we're going to get into my monthly layouts. Yeah, so here's how my monthly layout was in August. And it's pretty much exactly the same because this format really worked for me and I liked it. This was a lot of the stats that I used at the beginning. This is where I gathered all of that information from. And it just shows here's my TBR games right here and the extra challenges I was doing. As I finished it, I colored in the little bubble. Whenever I started a book, I wrote it here with the start date. When I finished, I put the finish date. And then my favorites of the month. Again, I don't restrict myself to just one, so I can have multiple. And anything that was pushed to next month. There's that. And then we get right into the reviews. And I have just some brief information about the book physically, how many pages, genre, publisher, that kind of stuff, and where I rated it at. And then we just flip through. Some of my notes are kind of brief, but I was keeping more extensive notes, planning to do videos on a lot of these, and I never got around to it. So you know what I'll do? I'll go kind of slow. That way, if there's something you've been curious about and you see a book that you know I've read and you want to know why I didn't like it, then, you know, have at it. Just keep in mind, I meant these as notes for myself, so I don't know. Maybe, I don't know, maybe I shouldn't tell you to look at it too closely. Because not, and maybe all of my notes, I may not have intended for all of my notes to become public knowledge. All right, anyway, here's February. Again, same layout. I think I just flipped it from, I just kind of play with where the elements are on the page. Yeah, so I moved the title down to here from there. So, and I only had one favorite that month. Phantom of the Opera, so awesome. Read it if you haven't. I absolutely loved it. There's a lot more humor to it than I expected. And more notes. Again, using those numbers from the cover page. And then we're into March. Changed up my little box. I kind of changed the style of that from month to month. But other than that, my book pretty much stays consistent throughout. There's a little thought on Jane Austen. And yeah, here's April. Grabbed some stickers and added those. April was a busy reading month. I read 20 books that month. And notes. I don't even know if y'all want to see me actually physically flip the page, but there's May. And go. Again, had some fun with some stickers. Keeping long, extensive notes for the review so I can tell y'all what's going on. The good thing is, if I do want to go back and review one of these books or do a video with it, I should have plenty of reminders for myself so I can discuss it with y'all intelligently. Or at least that's the hope. There was a blank spot because I always want a double page spread for my monthly layouts. I roll. Oceanography of the Moon. I had a lot to say on that one, and not the book for me. Maybe I should do a video on my flops and DNFs from 2022. Or is it too late for that? It's going to add a decoration. This was my birthday month. I was very busy. I only read 9 books. So I think that was between my Wisconsin trip and my Chicago trip. And we got September with a cute little fox. And that was the month I played Bookopoly, so I really had to cram that in there. And I think I read a lot that month. Yeah, I read 14. I was starting to get worried I was going to run out of space in my book, and I had this blank spot. So these are actually the first reviews for the books that I read in October, which is why they're colored orange. And I obviously found a sheet of Halloween stickers and kind of put them everywhere. I got ahead of myself expecting to be writing more reviews, but I didn't need that space. So what I had planned was I was just going to thread my page if I ran out and go back and use those blank pages if I needed. Again, one of the beauties of bullet journaling, you can just, you know, grab any blank space that you need. Here was December. This was supposed to be green. It actually looks yellow in person. I don't know how it's going to look on camera. And this was the last month. And I ended on page 216 with 4 pages left. Like I said, if I had used these, then here I just would have put an arrow and I would have gone back to one of my blank spots. I could have gone here, wrote whatever number that I had from before, and continued on easily in just filling in all the blank spaces. So anyway, that was my 2022 reading journal. I hope y'all like that and got some ideas for your own, and it makes you excited to see how 2023 has turned out. So we're already at February 12th, and I don't have it done yet. It's penciled in. I'm finally getting it ready. But anyway, that was it, and I hope to see y'all in the next one. Keep an eye out for my 2023 setup. I'll see y'all later. Bye now.